Okay, so I've spoken about expectations and I've spoken about the concept of under-promising and over-delivering, or at least having some sort of relationship between the promise and the delivery. The question then becomes, what happens if things aren't going so well? So you've made a promise with the best intentions, you've done a process, and all of a sudden something's going to take longer than expected. This is the usual one. It takes longer than expected. And it will be no surprise to you to learn that, with some exceptions, lawyers failing to communicate openly with their clients is one of the most common complaints that clients have when it comes to their relationship with their lawyer. They don't get updates, they don't know what's going on, they don't know what the timeframes are, things are delivered late without notice, they just don't get that engagement from their lawyers. Why is this? I think a lot of the time it's because we're afraid to pick up the phone and tell our client that unfortunately it's taking longer than expected and we're now aiming to have it to you by this date rather than the original time frame of that. That is what it is a lot of the time. We hope that if we just sort of ignore it and close our eyes to it, and maybe the client won't notice that we were 2 weeks late on our deadline when we promised that advice. Of course they'll notice. Would you notice? If you were getting some renovations done at your house and your tiler who was putting the tiles in your bathroom turned up 2 weeks late, would you notice? I'd notice. Of course your clients notice. Of course they know when you say you're going to deliver something by Thursday and you don't deliver it till next Tuesday. Give them the benefit of the doubt that they're not idiots and that, much like you, when someone promises them something, they generally take that to heart. So that sort of arrogance that maybe your client won't notice is a terrible mindset to get in. They always notice, and you should expect they would notice. And even if they don't or wouldn't, you still should give them a call or send them an email. But go back to what I said, is a call more appropriate? Hey Bob, just wanted to let you know we're 3/4 of the way through. We're just burying ourselves a little bit more into the detail on topic X because we think that's an important one and it's taking longer than we expected. We're hoping to get the advice to you by Tuesday. Is that okay with you? Is there anything happening that means we need to really put the accelerator on and get this out to you sooner than that? Ask the question. Don't make assumptions that it's okay. Maybe that's too late. Maybe Bob's got a meeting on Saturday where he needs this information. Ask the question. The second thing I want to recommend is make the call sooner rather than later. If you need to update a client, update them sooner. I personally dislike it, and I expect many clients do, when you actually get right up to the deadline, 4:59, when you promised something by 5 o'clock, and you send a thing saying, oh, by the way, it's not done. The client's going to think, quite rightly, surely you knew it wasn't going to be done before now, and yet you waited till now to tell me. What if it is urgent? You're boxing yourself into a corner and you're going to make them unhappy, potentially. It's just always better to reach out sooner rather than later. It's a general principle. There might be some special occasions where you don't. Perhaps you thought something was going to get done and it just didn't. Or you were relying on someone else who'd promised you something and they didn't deliver it. And so you get the unhappy job of communicating that to the client without throwing your friend straight into the bin. So it's not always easy delivering news that you're not going to meet the expectations that you provided, but it's part of the job. And sometimes you've got to do it, and sometimes things are harder than what we think they're going to be. This is not always a scientific process. The practice of law can be unpredictable, and it is often the case that things are harder than what we initially thought. We do have a tendency to be a bit optimistic about how quickly or cheaply we can do things, but over years you will get better at figuring out where the sweet spot is on not just telling someone everything's going to take 6 months and be $1 million in cost, but ensuring that you can do the job properly and deliver to them in a timely fashion. Deliver the news, communicate with your client. There's no real homework today other than this. If you have any current matters or matters come up, think about how you would communicate that news. What would you say? Speak it out loud. It's good practice because it's harder than what you think. Just say it out loud to yourself in front of a mirror or jot it down. How would you communicate this news if the expectations needed to shift and you were given the job of communicating it? That's all for today, and I'll see you soon.